There. How's that? I think it says it's recording now. And that, so you should be able to hopefully record it and to be able to use it. So that'd be good. All right. Well, let's. Welcome to Ontario. And that I think you're what, in Thornhill? Just is that just north of Toronto? Yeah. Okay. Good. York region. Okay. All right. Well, I'm in the Nanaimo, which is on Vancouver Island. So it's it rained last night, and which was good because we didn't have rain for about 8 or 10 days and that. But it's starting to get sunny now, so that's that'll be good. One of the things that I really want to talk to you about is how intelligent wolves are. They're highly intelligent animals, and they're about 100 times smarter than your average dog. These animals can actually problem solve, wolves. Many other, there's not that many animals that can problem solve. Your great apes, chimps and gorillas and orangutans, those animals can, as well as dolphins and that. Most dogs can't problem solve. It's really just kind of training. By problem solving, what I mean is they encounter a situation they've never encountered before, and they find a solution to it. Okay. So, and I observed that with 2 of the ones that I had that were growing up. So that's how intelligent they are. The other thing that you're going to find with wolves is that their behavior is very purposeful. So what I mean by that is when they go to do something, it's for a distinct purpose that they're doing it. It's not out of any kind of impulse or let's just go do something. So, for examples, if they're traveling in their territory, they're either hunting or they're going to patrol their territory to protect it so that there's not any other intruders in it, particularly other wolves from adjoining wolf packs. So wolves are very territorial. They want to keep other wolves out of their territory, and they have to do that for the main reason of they have to protect the prey base that's in their territory. Those are the animals that they're going to prey upon. So if you let too many come into your territory, they're going to eat your food. So that's why they're really quite territorial. The other thing is that wolves are highly predictable in terms of their behavior. So the 4 that I have a pretty good idea what they're going to do in any given situation. I've just been around them so long, and their behavior is quite predictable. Dog behavior, on the other hand, it isn't all that predictable. It is in some circumstances, but dogs can be unpredictable and that. But wolves are pretty predictable. Wolves have all sorts, they have individual personalities that are different from one wolf to another. They come in, different sizes, small, medium, and large. And they also, their coat color can be different even within a pack. There can be some, distinct differences. The other thing is when they howl, they have different howls, just like, when we sing and that, we have different, you got baritones and you got, sopranos and bass and whatever. So very much distinctly different. Let's talk about the social aspect of a wolf. They live in a social organization group called a pack or a family group. I prefer to call it a family group. I'll use the word pack at times, but the family group is really a dominant male and a dominant female. They will be the breeding pair, okay? So there's generally only one breeding pair in a pack. Those are the ones that are going to have the puppies, and it's because they're the strongest. They have the strongest genetic material. they're the leadership of the pack. And generally what would happen is the two of them would meet up and form a pair, and then they would mate and they would have their puppies. And the family group or the pack is going to be, for the most part, and that what's going to happen is that they're going to be the pups from different years. So let's say in 2015, a male and a female wolf met and became a pair, and they're going to be probably about 2 years of age, maybe a little bit older. Then what they're going to mate, so 2016 they'll have pups, in 2017, 2018, and 2019. And so that's generally the constellation of a pack. They will invite other wolves into their pack, particularly if they need somebody for hunting and that. Now, what the dominant pair, the breeding pair, are going to make sure that the others don't breed. And particularly if they're brothers and sisters within that pack, they don't want them to breed because you don't have that genetic diversity. You get what is called inbreeding, right? And so you don't want that. So the other thing I think that really what we need to know about wolves is they're incredibly family oriented. Those bonds that are occur within that family group are incredibly strong. For example, they all look after the pups, even though they're not their pups. There's the breeding pair. So the other older sort of subdominant wolves, the ones that aren't as dominant as the breeding pair, they love the pups as much as the parents of the pups do, and they look after them and keep them strong and teach them and that. So those family bonds within a wolf pack or wolf family group are even stronger than human ones. So we can learn a lot from wolves in terms of family relationships. So again, those bonds are very, very tight. They operate as a team, so they don't want to hurt each other, because you'd be like, if you got a football or soccer team and you start hurting your teammates, you're not going to have a very strong team. So exactly the same with a wolf, and that. So anyway, I could. The other thing that's very interesting is many of the First Nations people in Canada fashioned their family structure after a wolf. So you'll find First Nations people will do things like within their family, they have that cooperative raising of the children, the cooperative hunting and the cooperative feeding of their people. So very much fashioned after the wolf. In Ontario, you've got the Anishinaabe people, the Ojibwe, and that they saw their the wolf as their brother, as many others did. So anyway, that's the family situation. The other thing that I just want to give you some information on, and then we'll from there we'll start to go see the wolves. Wolves are a top predator, an apex predator. So what that means is they're at the top of the food chain. Okay, they hunt animals below them. We're not going to include man in this scenario. Man hunts and traps wolves, but we'll eliminate them. So nothing really hunts and wolves. For example, wolves, wolf pack or family group will make sure a cougar is not a match for a wolf pack. Neither are black bears. Wolves will kill black bears. Regarding grizzly bears, I mean, they're a bit, more of a formidable foe for the wolves than the other two I've just mentioned. What the wolves and grizzly bears will do is they'll tend to compete with each other for a carcass of an animal. So if the grizzly bear has killed, let's say, a large deer, and a wolf pack finds that, they will try to push the grizzly bear off that carcass. Conversely, if there's only a couple wolves on that deer carcass and a big grizzly comes, they're going to push the wolves off that carcass. So there's that kind of competition over carcasses. So I just want to read you something, and I will explain it, but you know, for the adults that are here present and listening, and that you can explain this to your children as after the presentation and that. But so wolves as keystone species. Wolves as apex predators hold the ecological balance together simply by being present on the landscape. They thus influence the biomass of plants. Simply by living, wolves ensure increased plant biomass. Now, this is a quote from Lisa Dulcidi, who's a Facebook friend of mine, who's a biologist in Alberta. And so what Lisa means by plant biomass is the total amount of vegetation that's out there in the landscape. Your trees, your grasslands, your shrubs, bushes of that nature, okay? And we know that they're really important for climate change because they absorb the carbon. So there's a great little video on YouTube, okay? It's called How Wolves Change Rivers. It's only 4 minutes long. So go, if you haven't watched it, go and watch it. So it's called How Wolves Change Rivers. It's on YouTube. And you'll see what I'm explaining in this quote. You'll see this happen in that video. So anyway, well, also wolves ensure strong songbird survival and abundance. And again, what that is that as you get more and more plant biomass, trees and that, you get more songbirds. They can eat, they can nest, and all that stuff. So that's very important. Wolves also ensure, influence, and maintain water and wetland ecological services on the landscape, thus maintaining aquatic invertebrate, amphibian, and fish populations. So wetlands are very important to humans. They filter our water and they filter our air, and they also act as a big sponge to absorb water so that you don't get as much flooding. So an ecological service is, you'll see in that How Wolves Change Rivers, that when the wolves came back in, more beavers came back in, and beavers created wetlands. And that helped to have all those other animals come and live in those wetlands, okay? The wolves also ensure forest diversity, and they ensure healthy ungulate populations. Now, an ungulate is a hooved animal. That's your deer and your moose and your elk and your bison and caribou, okay? The reason that they do that is they take out the young, the weak, the sick, and the injured. Wolves are the #1 defense against chronic wasting disease. And so what I'm going to do is let you find out what chronic wasting disease is, okay? You can look that up. And they also ensure that, because what wolves can do is they can detect an animal that's sick well before humans can. And one of the things that is happening with, as we're involved right now with COVID-19 pandemic, wolves and other animals, so COVID-19 is a zoonotic virus. It transmitted from an animal, they believe the pangolin, to humans, okay? And that's what most of the viruses we get, 60% and above, are zoonotic. They come from an animal to a human. What large apex predators do, such as wolves, is they help to keep those viruses in check because they kill animals that are sick, that can't transmit that to humans. So as we kill off these large predators, such as wolves, such as leopards and lions in Africa and other parts, it's really detrimental to humans. So, you know, what we're doing is by killing them off, we're making sure that those viruses have a much greater likelihood of transmitting to humans. And, you know, we're experiencing that right now. So Lisa says that she could go on and on. What she says is our world needs these top predators because they're the best managers of nature. We have proven as a human race that we are the worst. So let's allow them to do their job and stop killing them. In other words, we need to let nature heal itself. Wildlife management has failed us, okay? Wildlife management is where you've got the biologists and the wildlife managers thinking that they can kill this species to benefit this species and we can do that. That doesn't work. We've proven it doesn't work, so we have to scrap that. Anyway, that's what wolves do, and very important. Okay, so you heard enough of me talking. Let's go see some of the wolves. So right there is a, that's a grizzly bear paw. That's a plaster of Paris paw print of a grizzly bear. It's a rather small one. They can be much bigger. Okay, so we're gonna go over here and see Tundra. Hey, Tundra. Hi. There's Tundra. Tundra lives in the house, okay? She's 13 years of age. So she's an older wolf. And so she's laying on her bed. Yes, yeah, you are, aren't you? Yeah, you're laying on your bed. There she is. So Tundra is the one that I take into the schools. So in BC here, Tundra and I have in the 13 years that we've been doing it, we visited over 200 schools in BC and seen over 35,000 students and teachers and that. We've actually stopped counting and that. So yeah, Tundra is quite well known within the schools and other community groups of what we've done. So Tundra is very social. I raised her from a 3-week-old pup. And wolves are not social, okay? They don't want to socialize with humans because humans kill them. So if you want to live a long life as a wolf, you want to keep away from humans, except for humans like me. No, let's not share the screen, okay? So the day of family, if you can reverse sharing the screen. Turn that off, please. Thank you. There. Okay. All right. So there's Tundra. Hey, how you doing? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out and see the other wolves. They're outside. So, it's turned out to be sunny. Nice. Okay. Let's get rid of the gate here. Tundra will probably come out onto the deck. Gate back on so she doesn't wander down the stairs. So you can probably see Mohegan over there. She's coming here. So I'm about to go into the enclosure here. There's Tundra. She's come up out onto the deck. Hi, Mohegan. So Mohegan means wolf in the Cree language. So that's the largest indigenous group in Canada. And I'm gonna sit here. Hi, Mohegan, how are you? So she's the mother of the pups. Where's your pups? Huh? Where's your pups? Now, what you can see is I have a piece of chicken jerky here, and she went and grabbed it out of my hand. And she does it pretty gently. The jaw pressure on a wolf is 1,500 pounds per square inch. That's the only weapon they have to bring down an animal, like the deer and the moose. They grab them by their jaw. So the German Shepherd police dog is 750 pounds per square inch, okay? So it's twice what jaw pressure of a wolf to a police dog. All right, so I'm gonna see, the other ones are, the two pups are down somewhere way down over there. They may come back up here and we'll see them. So anyway, I'm gonna get them, watch this. Woo! Okay. Okay. Tundra. Tundra. Hey. Hey. Okay. That's enough. Tundra. Shh. Mahig. Mahig. Quiet. Okay. All right. Tundra, that's good. Getting him to stop is sometimes a lot harder to get than getting him to go. So there's Denali. That's the male pup right there. And then over there by the tree is Stakai. So Denali's named after the park in Alaska, and Stakai is the name for wolf in the Hulkaminam language, which is the Coast Salish people here that live on the east coast of Vancouver Island, where I live, the Nanaimo area and that. So you heard them howl, see, wolves don't bark. Their main form of verbal communication is howling, or they'll whine. I started to whine, so watch Mehigan. And she'll immediately, yeah, what's that? Huh? What's that? Hey, girl? Huh? How are you doing? Oh, that's a good girl, aren't you? She's a fabulous mom. So those pups are about 11 months old. They'll be a year on the 5th of May. And just right over there past the water pail that Mehigan just drank out of, and beyond that little stump is the den that she dug along with her mate Nahani, who's the father of the pups. And that's where the pups were born. There's Denali there. He's coming towards us. They were playing in the water this morning, so they're all nice and dirty and that, but they're very playful. They like doing that. So wolves howl for 5 main reasons, and the main reason one of the main reasons that they howl is to delineate territory. So remember I mentioned that wolves are very territorial. So what they'll do is Pack A will howl to Pack B to tell Pack B to stay out of its territory, and Pack B will be telling the same thing to Pack A. So they howl back and forth to each other to say, this is our territory and stay out. They'll also howl to socially bond. They wake up in the morning and they start to howl. They're saying hello to each other, and they're reinforcing those bonds that I talked about. They'll do that at nighttime at dusk. They howl to bring the pack together if they're going to go hunting. They'll also howl to alert the other pack members if there's any kind of threat in their territory. So, for example, they would, if they detect humans coming into their territory, they may howl to let the other pack members know. And one final reason that they howl is what they'll do is they will, when wolves are about 2 years of age, they will disperse from their natal pack. So dispersal is leave, and they will, from their natal pack, that's the pack that they're born into, and they're going to then go find another mate. So a male's going to go find a female, and a female a male, and they'll do that. Now, in January, February 2011, I went up to Houston, BC, which is north central BC. That was in the Wet'suwet'en unceded traditional territory, and you probably remember that, of the blockades and of their territory from that gas pipeline. And so we went up there to see wild wolves, and I rented a cabin on a frozen lake up there, and we saw 3 wild wolves. 2 of them were on the frozen lake, and the other one was it was on the Maurice River Forest Service Road, which is the road that got blockaded. And they would wake me up in the morning about 6:30, and it was anywhere from 0 to -20, so I'd dress accordingly, and I'd take them out for their morning walk. And this one morning, sort of a morning like today, when the sun was just coming up, it was about 7:45 in the morning. It was just coming up over the lake to the east. There was a wolf pack on the south side of the lake. They were howling, and there was a pack on the north side of the lake, which was the lake we were on, and so they were howling back and forth to each other, and Tundra and Meshach, he was the other one that I had at the time. He subsequently died. And we were listening to this, and it was going on for about 10, 12 minutes, this howling. So they were telling each other, yeah, stay out of our territory, and we know you, and we know where you are, and don't come over here, and we won't go over there, that type of thing. And after they stopped, Tundra let out 2 long howls of about 8 to 10 seconds long, and with about a 5-second interlude between the howls. So she was talking to her wild cousins. It was an incredible experience to listen to. It was almost sort of like a spiritual experience. So she was talking to her wild cousins. Now they didn't howl back, but you could tell from the eerie silence that they knew. Oh, here comes Megan. There's the mom. So I'm getting up, and so watch right here. She's going to come here and sniff where I've just been. Yeah, so it was really neat to listen to that. Hey, how are you doing, girl? Hey, yeah. So I'm just going to leave the enclosure now. But you see what I've said? There she goes, and she's going to sniff exactly where I am, where I've been sitting. They do that all the time. She'll sniff my hands when I first come in. She'll sniff the bottom of my feet if I'm sitting down. They want to know the scents that I'm bringing in there. Anyway, there she is. Hey, she's a lovely girl. Aren't you, me? April 15th, I think it was. All right, so we're gonna leave her. We're gonna go back in the house, and then we get a chance to do all the questions by way of chat. So put this here. There's Stakai over there, and here comes Denali. I don't know if you can see how far you can see, but here he comes trotting up the trail. All right. Okay, we're gonna go inside the house. See if Tundra's around. She probably went back into the bedroom or whatever. Okay, actually I got a couple things here I'll show you. And that if you want to know more about wolves and read and that, so here's two books. This one's called Among Wolves by Gordon Haber. Gordon Haber was a wolf biologist in Denali National Park, so he was really quite a good a biologist. So that's why I named one of the pups Denali. And so you can get that maybe in your library when your libraries open up. I assume they're probably closed now, or school library. If you're interested, you can get it from Amazon, either as Kindle or paperback version. So that's a really good book, written by a biologist and also by Mary Beth Holloman, who was a friend of Gordon's, because he died in 2009, and this book came out, what is called posthumously after his death. It's very easily read in that. And here's another book, which you probably recognize, Tundra, A Gift from the Creator. So this is a book that I wrote and self-published at the end of January, February. So this is the 13-year journey that Tundra and I have had going around to schools and community groups. A lot of information about First Nations and stories of our interaction with them. The picture is actually of Tundra running free up in the snow in the mountains of northern Vancouver Island. Many First Nations people that saw Tundra would say that could be my grandmother or my grandfather, because they believe that they go back to the wolf if they're from the wolf clan and that. Anyway, that's available on our website, so tundraspeaks.com. You can go there, you can take a look at it, and if you're interested, you can purchase it off the website. Okay, so I think I've got, where have I put my little, there we are. Okay. Now I noticed that there was lots of, and that, let me go to the chat and see the questions and from the beginning. Okay. Okay, one is, what is the lifespan of a wolf? So that's a really good question. And that in the wild, most of the wolves are dead by 5 years of age. Even in Ontario, as in BC, we hunt and trap these animals quite a bit. So the most wolf mortality, so about 90% of wolf death is caused by humans, hunting and trapping. They get hit by cars and that. So in captivity, 10 to 15 years. So Tundra, she's 13, so she's getting on up there, but she still seems to be pretty healthy. And that in that Denali National Park that I talked about in that book, Among Wolves, there was so you can't hunt and trap wolves in national parks in the US or Canada. And in Ontario, in Algonquin Provincial Park, you can't hunt and trap them there either. So there was a female wolf that was 18 in Denali when she died of natural causes. So that's very, very old for a wolf. Wolves are almost extinct. Well, that's not quite true. In Canada, there's between 52 and 60,000 wolves. We have the most wolves of any country in the world, including Russia. They're around 30 to 35,000. Now, these are estimates because there's no way you know how many wolves there are. They're just so elusive. But there are places in the world where wolves are becoming, that are much more threatened. For example, the Mexican wolf, which lives in northern Mexico, Arizona, New Mexico, there's not many of them. There's also another species of wolf called the red wolf, which lives in like North Carolina, South Carolina, and that. And they're fairly close to being extinct. They're trying to reintroduce them. Where's the dad of the pups? Well, unfortunately, Nahani, who was an Arctic wolf, he died in that. Yeah, Denali's the male pup. That's right. Very good. Nahani's the dad. That's good. You guys are listening. Around how early do they normally wake up? Well, they, you know, we generally get up around 6:30, and they're up and awake and that by then. They on our website. So I posted it on your on the chat at the beginning. So it's tundraspeaks.com. Go to the blog page. And if you go to the blog of blogs of May, June, and July of last year, 2019, I've written, you know, sort of weekly sort of summaries of what the pups are doing. I also have recorded a number of short little videos, okay? So those are embedded into that blog. So if you go to the blog and you see it and you know, click the cursor on that, it'll bring you to a number of videos, of which there's a video I made of what wolves do at nighttime, and you'll see how active they are at night, okay? And in the wild, they're very active at night too. They do a lot of their hunting. And that, so during the wintertime, not so much of them being active, but they definitely are. How high can a wolf jump? Well, our fence here is 7 feet high, and a wolf in the wild could easily scale that. Mohegan, she was a pretty good jumper. She's never tried. None of them have really ever tried to scale the fence because they're so well treated and so well fed in the inside that why would they want to leave? And that. On the perimeter inside the fence is wire mesh about 3 to 7 feet, because it's easier for them to dig out underneath than it is for them to go over top. Okay. Okay, what is the relationship between Tundra and the other wolves, considering Tundra goes with you in the house? She looks like the favorite. So Mohegan, who's the mother, obviously the female, and Tundra's female. Now they don't get along. Mohegan wants to be the dominant female, so I have to keep them separate, because Mohegan will, while she's very, very loving, and that she's going to want to be the dominant female, and she will dominate Tundra. And the couple times, you know, that they used to be together in when they were young, and that. But when Mohegan got to be about 16 months old, she challenged Tundra to being the dominant female within the pack, and so she was actually stronger than Tundra, even though Tundra's bigger. So we've had to keep them separate ever since, and that. Okay, what time do wolves sleep? Well, they sleep kind of a lot of the time. So here, when it's like it's going to get warm today, it probably will get up to 15. I think it's supposed to be 17 degrees centigrade. They will go and find their place to lay down, and they'll become much more active at around after dinner, 5, 6 o'clock. Now what they do, which is quite interesting, is right now I'm looking at them. They're in the bottom corner, left-hand corner of the enclosure. They're kind of sniffing. They're playing, drinking, and playing in the water, and that. They will. What they will do is they will lay in different places, and that depending where the sun is. So they try to keep out of the sun, And that's how they kind of keep moving in their territories. They just go and lay in different spots in that. Okay, let me just some of the other. Okay, what time? Okay. You're hungry. You want lunch, do you? All right. Why do people hunt wolves? Well, that's a good question. You can't eat them. The hunters, they compete with the wolves because they think that the wolves, kill too many deer and elk and whatever. But it's really biologically inaccurate. Wolves are better hunters than human hunters. That's why the First Nations people wanted to acquire the hunting skills of a wolf. And it's interesting, back, before the Europeans kind of arrived, or just thereafter, the wolves would actually leave food for the First Nations people if the prey were scarce and the First Nations people were hungry. They would actually kill it and leave it for the First Nations people. It's really sad. We shouldn't be hunting wolves. They play such an important role for us, as I mentioned, in terms of disease control and keeping the nature balanced. That's that keystone species effect. It has such a powerful effect below all the species below that. You will see that by watching that video, How Wolves Change Rivers. Okay. How long have you been with these wolves? Well, Tundra was 3 weeks of age when I got her, and Mohegan was 5 weeks, and Nohani was 5 weeks, and then their pups were born here in the enclosure. Again, what you want to do is go to those videos that I talked about. You'll see the pups coming out of the den for the first time. They're 17 days old. There's an incredible amount of really neat short videos in that on our website. So go and watch them. Also, I posted that we have a YouTube channel called the SWELL, SWELL Wolf Education Center channel. Go there. And I just posted another one yesterday. So there's lots of videos that you can watch and learn from. Would these wolves be able to adapt if you were to place them into the wild? Likely not. Mohegan is quite a good hunter, so she's would be, of the four, she would be the one most likely to survive. Tundra wouldn't. She's too old, and that. There's also a very good couple videos done by the National Film Board of Canada. I think one is called Call of the Wild, and this is a guy by the name of Bill Mason. This is back in the early 1970s. He got two wolf pups from around the James Bay area of Quebec. He lived just in the Gatineau Hills and that, and he raised these two wild wolves, and then he flew them up into the Northwest Territories, and he was going to release them up there. They were brothers, okay? So he went up there in the wintertime, and it shows you in this film, they were on a frozen lake camping. There were caribou everywhere, and those, he didn't feed those wolves for about 10 to 12 days, purposely to see if they would go and hunt the caribou, and they didn't. He had to feed them because they just would have starved to death. And he took them back to his place in the Gatineau Hills. So even though they have a predator instinct, and that they hadn't learned how to hunt those caribou. And if you don't know how to do that, they're not going to try it, because those caribou can kill the wolves just as easy as them trying to kill the caribou. All right. All right. Well, if I hadn't separated Mohegan from her, they would have got into a pretty good scrap. Who named the wolves? I did. What do you feed them? Well, I do feed them, and that. So I feed them in the morning. So around 6:30 to 7, and that they get chicken. We buy what are called stewing fowls or mature hens. These are older chickens. We likely wouldn't eat them. They're not as tasty. They're a tougher bird. So we cook that only because we can then rip it off the bones and distribute more of the chicken. They'll eat the chicken raw. With that jaw pressure, they just crunch through chicken bones. That's not a problem for them. They get beef fat that we get from the butcher, so that's raw. Every third night, they get what is called a beef shank. The beef shank's the lower part of the beef leg, cattle leg. We get our butcher to cut it up into 3 pieces. It's about 2 to 3 kilograms a piece, and they get that every third night. So they're well fed and that. How old is Mohegan? Mohegan is 6. What's the channel called on YouTube? It's the SWELL. It'll be on the chat if you go right to the front of the chat. It's SWELL, SWELL Wolf Education Centre. So if you search that on YouTube, those videos will come up. How big is the den? Well, that's a very good question. Mohegan and Nahani dug the den. What it is it's 3 feet below grade, so it's 3 feet below the ground level, and it goes back about 6 to 8 feet. In fact, I can't see the back of the den, even if I have a strong flashlight and I try to see how far it goes back there. That's how much they excavated. So when Mohegan went down there on Saturday, May the 4th of 2019, to have her pups, and the pups were born the next day, I think it was Sunday, May the 5th, we didn't know how many wolf pups she had because we couldn't see. And so they didn't come out till the 23rd of May as the first time I saw them at the entrance to the den. Why do the pups have different color coats if they have the same parents? And that they will have that. Some will be, in the wild, some will be black and some will be gray, and some will be kind of a brown with a gray. It's just, the kind of genetic diversity, which is a little different than if you have 2 Negro people, their children are going to be, they're going to be, black like their parents, and you have 2 Caucasian people, they're going to be white like their parents. But with wolves, they seem to have that variability. How did I get involved with wolves professionally? Well, I got Meshach as a wolf dog. He was supposed to be more wolf than he was, and that so he was an incredible animal. Though he could have survived out in the wild. He was a great hunter, and so and then we got Tundra next, and then Nahani and Mohegan, and then they had the pups. So I wasn't going to do any wolf education. I mean, I didn't get them to do wolf education. It's just that people wanted to know about it. So about wolves and that, it's just sort of has developed. If we adopt a wolf, do we have to take it live with us? No. Have I ever been bit by any of the wolves? Not. They chomped on my hand a bit, and that's not necessarily aggression. It's how they play, and that now Nahani, the father of the pups, he was definitely very territorial. So I had to watch being around him, and I had to be like, I couldn't sit on the ground or lay on the ground because he saw me as prey then, and he would want to come get me. And one day he grabbed, it was in the winter, he grabbed the jacket. I had a big kind of wool plaid jacket, and he grabbed the cuff, and he dragged me like 10 feet. And I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5", 6 feet 5 inches, and I'm 250 pounds. And he could drag me 10 feet. That's how strong he was. I wasn't really concerned. I shook him off and I got up, and he didn't attack me or anything. But, they aren't family pets. You really have to kind of, understand that. Like, we can't have cats and dogs and whatever because they'll take them out. We don't know how the father died. He just ended up passing away. Weren't wolves almost extinct? In certain places, certainly not in Canada, are they? They're extinct in, so for example, they're extirpated. Let's use the word extirpated. Extinct means, that they're gone forever. Extirpated means that they have been killed off in a local area. So you're in southern Ontario. You don't have any wolves down there. You got coyotes, and you're getting a thing called a coy wolf, which is where wolves and coyotes are mating. But wolves aren't in southern Ontario. They're in northern Ontario, up in the lake country there that I talked about, like Algonquin, and they're in northern Ontario. They're also not in southern Quebec, and there's none in the Maritimes. I've heard of the odd one in New Brunswick or whatever. There's wolves in Labrador. And so if you look at, those areas, southern Ontario, southern Quebec, and in the Maritimes, there's large populations of humans, and you've got, agricultural, you got livestock and that. So that doesn't mix well. So that's why you don't have any wolves there. So that's called extirpated. But there's wolves, lots of wolves in northern Quebec and northern Ontario. Can I differentiate between their howls as an expert? I certainly can with the ones that I have. If you're out in the wild, you happen to be able to listen to wolves. So when I was listening to those wolves that I described, the two wolf packs that were howling back and forth, you could get a sense as to how many there were. If I had been in that area quite a bit, you'd get to know the different howls from the different wolves and that, because they definitely do have different howls. Did it hurt when he bit you? No. In fact, he didn't. Even when he grabbed me on the hand, it didn't break the skin, and that. So, how many babies do wolves have? And so how many wolf pups in a litter? Generally around 5 to 7 in a litter. Now, Mohegan had 2. That was their first litter. So, they're around 6. Now, they're about a pound at birth. So think of a guinea pig, about the size of a guinea pig when they're born. They're blind, and their eyes don't open up till around 15 days. They can't smell and they can't hear. And they also can't regulate their body heat. So that's why they're in the den and they're wrapped around mom, keep them warm and nursing. When they do open their eyes, all wolf pups have blue eyes when they're born. And then around 8 weeks to 16 weeks, the eye color changes to their adult eye color, which can be different. And that all 4 of them here have different eye colors. And then their coat changes between 8 and 16 weeks. But, so from the 5th week, so when they're 5 weeks old in the wild to 20 weeks, they grow at about 3 pounds a week. So they triple their birth weight every week from the 5th week to the 20th week. So you can see how quickly they grow. And they're only born in the spring because by October, November, they got to be almost adult size to start to travel in the territory through the winter with the wolf pack. So you can't have small little pups trying to keep up to adult size wolves and that. So that's kind of the pup development. About how long do they howl for? Well, ours maybe 2-3 minutes at the most. When they howl, they generally are hearing the emergency vehicles, the police cars or their ambulances and that. Last week, about midnight, there was a fire at the end of our road. A metal shed had caught fire inside, and so there was 4 fire trucks roaring by with their sirens and that. So they howled for a little longer, but you could barely hear them because of being drowned out by the fire truck and that. But the ones that I mentioned in the wild, that was 10 to 12 minutes. And that. In terms of the veterinarians, the Tundra goes to the vet, and that. But the 3 out back here, Mohegan and Denali and Stakai, have never seen a vet, and that they're healthy animals. A vet wouldn't be able to get close to them to examine them, try to give them shots or anything of that nature. It doesn't happen in the wild, so it doesn't happen out in the backyard here either. Tundra, being that she's more social and she lives with us, the vet that we have is actually a wildlife veterinarian. He has worked with wolves. Okay, about how far can you hear a wolf howl from? Well, on the tundra in northern Canada, the wolves can hear them howling about 16 kilometers away. And through the forest, it's about 10 kilometers. Here, we have like an acre of property, and the back enclosure where the 3 wolves are, that's about 2/3 of the acre. So we do have some neighbors, and they can hear them howl about 3 kilometers away, 3 to 4 kilometers away. You've got a little bit more noise. You got, like, for example, we're on the flight path at the Nanaimo airport, and so when the planes come over top, you don't hear them. There's other noise. Given that we're in a more of an urban environment, but they've heard them 3-4 kilometers away, particularly early in the morning when it's not noisy or something like that. Okay, let me see. How many types of wolves are there? Well, there are in North America. The wolf species is called the gray wolf, and it's not the color. The biologists refer to it as gray wolf. And within North America, there's 5 different subspecies of wolves under the gray wolf, okay? So there's the Arctic wolf that lives way up in northern Canada. They're all white. So they're not gray, but they're called the gray wolf, okay? There's the Mexican wolf, which is the southern most subspecies. They're kind of more of a browny gray. Then there's the eastern timber wolf, and they're the ones that live, they're very small subspecies, but they're the ones that live in the Algonquin Provincial Park. Okay, that's the eastern timber wolf. And then there's 2 other large subspecies called Canis lupus occidentalis and Canis lupus nublis. And so the nublis are the ones more in the BC area. You're in Ontario there, in northern Ontario, they would be likely the occidentalis ones. Do they take a nap? Oh yeah, they, as I mentioned earlier, they sleep through the certainly through the day. And that how many different variation wolf breeds? So I think I've mentioned that there is the red wolf, which is a different than the gray wolf, and those are the ones down in the Carolinas. There's an Ethiopian wolf, lives in Ethiopia, 10,000 feet and above, because Ethiopia can be 12, 13, 14,000 feet in elevation. And the Ethiopian wolf, it looks more like a coyote, but it's referred to as a wolf. And there are wolves in Europe. There's about 12,000 wolves in Europe. There's more wolves in Europe than there are in the United States, including if you include the Alaska wolves. There are wolves in some of the Middle Eastern countries. For example, there's wolves in Israel. There's wolves in Saudi Arabia. There's wolves in northern Iraq and northern Iran, and in Turkey. There's wolves in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkmenistan, and into northern Pakistan and northern India, and there's wolves in China. So there's quite a few in that. What is the reason behind creating the wolf sanctuary? Well, it's really not a wolf sanctuary that we have here. It's a wolf education center, and so as a result, I do a lot of wolf education, like I'm doing now with you with these wolf video conferences, and visiting schools and other community groups. There's so much misinformation out there about wolves, and so there's a lot of interest by the public into doing that. How far do they go into the enclosure? They're in all areas of the enclosure. Why do you love wolves? Well, it's because they're such an incredible animal. So they're so majestic. They're so family oriented. They're so loving. And this is even out in the wild, within their family groups and that in the wild. They're incredibly loving. We can learn so much about them. All right. How much does Tundra go out onto the deck? Well, quite a bit. And that, okay, I see that it says we're 2 p.m. here. Don't want to keep you much longer. Well, if you enjoyed it, and hopefully that you have, certainly by the number of questions, I would interpret that is that you've enjoyed it. Certainly, I assume you're, not going to school into classrooms in Ontario, as they're not in BC, and I know that. Certainly let your teachers know. Quite happy to do this for schools on Ontario. I do it for schools in BC on a daily basis. It's free. All they have to do is email me. So it's that meshach915@gmail email, which I know your scout leader has, and feel free to distribute that. Let your family know, or friends, neighbors, whatever. They're welcome to join us. So you want to say goodbye to Tundra if she's around. Let me go see if I can find Tundra. Here, and then we'll kind of, it's 5 after 11 here. It's 5 after. Here, let me close this, and let me reverse the camera. Oh, there we are. Okay, Tundra's in the bedroom, I think. Yeah, there she is. She's laying down. Hey, girl. They want to say goodbye to you. Okay, girl. Yeah, you're a pretty special girl, aren't you? Yeah, she's very loving. Yes, okay. You like laying down there. It's kind of cool in the bedroom here. So anyway, let's reverse it. Oops. There. All right. So thank you for joining us here, and interest in wolves and our wolf video conferences. And as I have mentioned, certainly feel free to let other people know about it, and they can get a hold of me, and we can make arrangements. So anyway, from our wolf family to your families, stay safe, stay healthy, think like a wolf, never get you into trouble. And may your creator bless you. All right. Goodbye. Have a good day. Cheers.